The late afternoon sun burned low over a quiet southern town where red brick sidewalks glowed in fading light and the air carried the scent of charred oak from nearby grills. Inside the town's most popular steakhouse, a man in a pressed jacket stepped through the doorway with the steady gait of someone who had walked through far darker places than a dimly lit dining room. His name was Marcus Hale, a decorated Army veteran whose calm presence concealed years of endurance. He wanted nothing more than a quiet meal and a moment of peace. Yet the stillness he expected was replaced by a subtle tension that drifted toward him like a shadow. Servers paused mid-stride, conversations faltered, eyes tracked him with the quick flicker of judgment disguised as curiosity. Marcus chose a table near the window. He unfolded the menu while a memory from his last deployment pulsed faintly in his mind: dust storms, endless waiting, the quiet weight of responsibility. Tonight he sought only comfort food, a simple steak after a long week of volunteering at the local community center. But from the moment he sat down, the air shifted. A hush lingered, almost invisible but unmistakable, as if the room itself held its breath. Then the waitress approached. She carried a practiced smile, but her eyes revealed something urgent. When she placed the menu before him, she leaned in just enough to whisper a few quiet words. They were brief, almost lost beneath the clatter of dishes, but they froze Marcus where he sat. In an instant his appetite vanished. Every sense sharpened. Whatever he had expected from this evening, it had just turned into something else entirely. Marcus Hale's life had been defined by service and resilience. Born in a working-class neighborhood outside Atlanta, he learned early that perseverance could be a shield against prejudice, though never a cure. His mother worked double shifts at a textile plant while his father, a Vietnam veteran, taught him that dignity is not given but carried. Marcus joined the Army at 18, drawn by the promise of purpose and a chance to escape the small injustices that crowded his childhood. 2 decades of deployments shaped him into a man of quiet strength. He had led soldiers through desert heat and mountain cold, had written letters of condolence, and had stood in silence as flags were folded with military precision. Through it all, he believed in the ideals he served: justice, equality, the notion that effort and honor would one day speak louder than skin color. When retirement came, he returned home with a chest of medals and a body marked by long miles and old injuries. Civilian life offered new missions. He organized food drives, mentored at-risk youth, and spoke at schools about resilience and leadership. Most nights he kept to a simple routine: exercise, reading, a quiet dinner. The steakhouse on Main Street had become a modest treat, a place where he could watch the world drift by through wide windows while savoring a well-cooked meal. The town itself wore a thin veneer of charm. Red brick storefronts lined the square, but behind the boutiques and coffee shops lay a history of segregation that still whispered through back alleys and courthouse records. Subtle reminders surfaced often: a delayed service, a suspicious glance, an unspoken hierarchy. Marcus noticed but rarely reacted. Years in the military had taught him patience and control. That evening he arrived just after the dinner rush. Families chatted over desserts, a group of businessmen laughed near the bar, and the scent of seared beef drifted through the room. Yet as he stepped inside, he sensed an undercurrent: brief stares that lingered a second too long, the way a hostess hesitated before showing him to a seat though plenty were open. It was not overt hostility, more a quiet gatekeeping that countless black men and women recognized instantly. He chose a corner table, back to the wall, a habit from years of scanning exits. The menu offered familiar comfort, but Marcus's attention was drawn to the staff's subtle movements. 2 waiters exchanged glances. A busboy paused mid-step. The atmosphere felt staged, as if something unspoken passed among them. When the waitress arrived, she seemed different from the rest. Young but with eyes that held gravity beyond her years, she greeted him softly, her voice low. She took his order, then as she leaned closer to collect the menu, her lips barely moved. "Be careful," she whispered. Just 2 words, quiet and swift, yet heavy enough to still his breath. In that moment the room seemed to narrow. He heard the slow tick of the wall clock, the muted laughter from the bar, the hiss of the kitchen grill. He had faced ambushes and sniper fire, yet this sudden warning chilled him more than distant gunfire. Something was wrong, something deeper than casual prejudice. Marcus's military instincts stirred. He scanned the room, noting exits, counting occupants. Years of combat training taught him to read the subtle language of danger, the nervous shuffle of feet, the way someone's eyes flicker toward a hidden threat. He saw a group of men at the far end of the bar, their shoulders squared, voices low. They wore local construction uniforms dusted with the day's labor, their faces ruddy from drink. Their laughter carried a sharp edge, the kind that masks hostility behind forced mirth. The waitress moved with deliberate calm, serving other tables yet glancing back at him with a silent plea. Her warning replayed in his mind. Be careful. Marcus sipped water and kept his breathing steady. He recalled similar nights overseas when an unremarkable street corner concealed explosive danger. But this was his hometown. He should have been safe. The men at the bar began watching him openly now. One leaned close to another, whispered something, and smirked. Another nudged the bartender, gesturing toward Marcus. The bartender's expression tightened, then he turned away. Subtle cues spoke louder than words. Minutes stretched. The waitress returned with bread and salad. Her hands trembled slightly as she set the plate down. Marcus studied her face for clues. She avoided eye contact but lingered just long enough to slide a folded note beneath the napkin. He waited until she stepped away before opening it. The handwriting was quick and uneven. Asterisk, they don't want you here. Please leave quietly. Something bad is planned, asterisk. A low heat rose in Marcus's chest. Not fear, but a controlled fury. He thought of his father who had endured similar threats decades earlier, of friends who had fought overseas only to face hatred at home. He wondered how many silent warnings like this had been ignored through history until violence erupted. He considered leaving. Pride urged him to stay. Why should a decorated veteran retreat from a simple meal because of bigotry? Yet the waitress's urgency suggested more than words. The group at the bar stood now, gathering jackets and hats. Their movements were deliberate, not the casual exit of men finished with drinks. They lingered near the door, eyes fixed on Marcus. His mind ran through options. Call the police? In this town, he was not certain of their response. Confront the men? That risked escalation. Stay seated? That could invite attack. He chose patience. He finished his salad slowly, every motion calculated. He remembered the lessons of countless missions: control the pace, never reveal fear, assess every angle. Outside, the window dusk deepened into night. Streetlights flickered on, casting long shadows across the sidewalk. The men remained near the door, murmuring, watching. The waitress approached once more, her voice barely audible. Back exit, she whispered, eyes darting toward a hallway behind the kitchen. Marcus nodded slightly. His heart rate steady, he rose with deliberate calm, as though heading to the restroom. He moved toward the hallway while the waitress intercepted another server to block the view. Behind the swinging kitchen door, the aroma of seared steaks gave way to the metallic scent of industrial cleaners. Cooks glanced up in brief surprise. Marcus scanned for the exit sign and slipped through a rear door into a narrow alley. The cool night air hit his face as he paused, listening. Footsteps followed, a soft scuffle behind the door. He moved into the shadows, pressing against the brick wall. The door creaked open. One of the men stepped out, scanning the alley. Marcus shifted silently until the man moved farther, then he crossed to the street and disappeared into the darkness. Years of training had once again kept him alive. Marcus did not go straight home. Instead, he circled the block, blending into shadows while keeping a watchful eye on the steakhouse. From a distance, he saw the group of men exit through the front, scanning the street with predatory patience. Their frustration was visible in the set of their shoulders, the harsh gestures of men denied an intended target. They split into pairs, stalking different directions. Marcus followed at a safe distance. He carried no weapon tonight, only his instincts and discipline. The men walked toward a parking lot where pickup trucks sat beneath buzzing lights. They muttered to each other, anger thick in their movements. He caught fragments of words, slurs that needed no full sentence to wound. He stopped beneath the shadow of an oak tree, watching as they finally dispersed. Only when engines roared and taillights faded did he allow his breath to deepen. The reality settled hard. They had not merely planned to intimidate. The coordinated movements, the lingering, the silent communication spoke of premeditated harm. He thought of the waitress who had risked her job to warn him. Without her courage, the night could have ended in blood. Marcus walked back toward the restaurant's rear entrance. The alley was quiet now, the clatter of dishes inside signaling the night's end. He slipped in and found the waitress near the service station, her shoulders tense. She startled when she saw him safe. He offered a small nod of gratitude. No words were exchanged, none were needed. Her eyes glistened with relief. Marcus left the steakhouse through the main door, walking with steady dignity past patrons unaware of the violence that nearly unfolded. He reached his car and sat for a long moment beneath the stars. Memories of military briefings and battlefield decisions coursed through him, but tonight's battlefield was his own hometown. The next morning he reported the incident to a trusted contact in the local Veterans Association who helped him file a formal complaint. Security footage from the restaurant confirmed the suspicious behavior. Local authorities, pressured by community leaders and veterans groups, launched an investigation. The men were soon identified as members of a fringe hate group responsible for a string of harassment incidents. Their plan that night, police later revealed, had included an ambush in the alley with weapons concealed in their vehicles. The waitress received community praise for her bravery, though she never sought recognition. Marcus ensured her actions were known, using his platform to highlight the quiet heroism of those who stand against hatred. For Marcus, the night became a symbol of an old truth: service to country does not shield a black man from racism. He had faced foreign enemies with honor only to encounter domestic hatred with equal vigilance. Yet the incident also underscored the power of individual courage. One young woman's choice to speak transformed potential tragedy into a testament of solidarity. He continued his work in the community with renewed purpose. At schools and veterans gatherings he shared the story not to inspire fear but to illuminate reality. He spoke of vigilance, of the need to look out for one another, of the quiet bravery required to confront systemic injustice. And he always ended with a challenge. How many acts of quiet warning go unheard each day? How many moments of silent courage pass unseen because people assume someone else will act? The night at the steakhouse remained etched in his memory as a reminder that racism adapts and persists, but so does resilience and collective conscience. What would you do if a stranger's whispered warning became the line between life and tragedy? The question hung in the air like a call to action, daring every listener to decide whether they would remain silent or choose, like that brave waitress, to speak when it matters most.